I never thought I'd be standing here, at the gate of a ranch that's been in my family for generations, staring at a metal sign that didn't belong. When my grandfather passed, I inherited this 50-acre patch of earth, a place filled with memories of summer afternoons chasing fireflies, of old oak trees that seemed to whisper stories only family knew. I imagined coming here to find peace, maybe fix up the barn, just me and the land. But instead, what greeted me was this, something alien and unwelcome. The sign was huge, a heavy slab of metal planted right in the middle of the gate, painted in bright red letters, Public Access Road, Willowbrook Authority. I stared at it, blinking, half expecting it to disappear when I rubbed my eyes. No permit. No official notice. Nothing. Just that damn sign. Who did this? My first thought was the HOA, that self-appointed group everyone in town talks about, led by Elaine Dempsey, the woman with the reputation for running things like a queen. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This can't be right, I muttered to myself. The gate was supposed to be my boundary. Granddad's name was on the deed, etched in the county records for decades. I remembered how he used to tell me stories about the land, about how every inch was fought for, protected. Now, here was a blatant challenge to all that. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my messages. No calls, no texts, no warnings. Nothing from the county, no letters from the HOA. Just this sign, mocking me in the morning light. I ran my hand over the cold metal, feeling the weight of someone else trying to claim what wasn't theirs. Who thinks they can just plant this here? I said aloud, mostly to hear my own voice, to steady my nerves. I thought about Elaine, the woman who liked to remind everyone that she was in charge of Willowbrook Estates. I'd heard the stories, how she bulldozed over neighbors, how she twisted rules to suit her own agenda. And now, it looked like she was trying to take my land without a fight. A bitter laugh escaped me. Well, Elaine, I said quietly, you don't know who you're messing with. I stepped back from the gate and looked around. The sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the dusty road. The ranch smelled like earth and freedom, but now, it felt like a battlefield. I couldn't shake the feeling that this sign was more than just a message, it was a warning. A declaration of war. And if they thought I'd let them take what my family built without a fight, they had another thing coming. With my heart pounding, I took a deep breath and dialed the county clerk's office. It was time to find out what was really going on. I called the county clerk's office first thing, my hands still shaky from the morning's shock. Hello, this is Cole Walker, I said. I'm calling about a sign someone put up on my property claiming public road access. Is there any official permit or filing on record? The clerk's voice was clipped, professional. Mr. Walker, we have no record of any permit or road access filing for your property. No paperwork at all? I asked, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. None, sir. That settled it. Someone was trying to pull a fast one, and I wasn't going to let it slide. Hours later, the rumble of engines drew my attention. My gate swung open, and in walked Elaine Dempsey, her usual haughty air trailing behind her like a cloud. She wasn't alone. Ron Mitchell, clutching a stack of papers like they were gospel, followed close behind, and Patty Ruston trailed nervously, her eyes darting around like she expected the whole thing to collapse. Elaine's smile was tight, a practiced mask of authority. Mr. Walker, she said, voice sharp and commanding, this road access is for community safety and emergency purposes. We're doing what's best for everyone. I raised an eyebrow. Community safety? Funny, I called the county this morning. They said there's no permit on file. Ron waved his papers with exaggerated confidence. These documents prove our authority, he said, voice booming. HOA bylaws give us the power to establish necessary access. I took a slow sip of my coffee, meeting Elaine's gaze without flinching. Mind if I see the official documentation? The county clerk's office didn't mention any of this. Patty stammered, it's being processed through the proper channels. Her voice cracked like a teenager's. Elaine's eyes narrowed, but I held my ground. You say, being processed, but no filing exists. That's not how property law works. Ron scoffed. This is about the greater good. Your personal feelings don't change the community's needs. I smiled thinly. Feelings aside, the law is clear. Without proper permits, this sign is meaningless. Elaine's jaw tightened. You're making this difficult, Mr. Walker. And you're making it personal, Elaine. Patty looked like she wanted to vanish, and Ron's bravado flickered for a moment. I glanced at the sign again, its bold letters glaring back. This isn't just about a sign, I said quietly. It's about respect. For property, for history, and for the law. Elaine crossed her arms. Then let's see if you respect the community enough to step aside. I respect my family's legacy enough not to let you steal it, I shot back. The tension hung heavy, but I could feel a new fire inside me. This wasn't just a fight over land anymore. It was a battle for justice. Elaine scoffed and turned on her heel, motioning for Ron and Patty to follow. We'll be back, she said over her shoulder. I watched them go, the words burning in my chest, we'll be back. I wasn't about to let that happen without a fight. I spent the better part of the day in the county records office, sifting through dusty files and faded maps. Every document I pulled seemed to add another piece to the puzzle. One that didn't fit with what Elaine and her HOA had been telling me. I found the original survey from 15 years ago, and as I traced the lines with my finger, my jaw tightened. This road, it runs right across my land, I whispered, eyes scanning the faded ink. Not just a driveway, but the entire access route that those 47 families used every day. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. How could they have just assumed that? At the clerk's desk, I asked, can you confirm these are the official plats for Willowbrook Estates? She nodded, handing me a stamped copy. These are the original surveys filed with the county. Looks like the developer never properly recorded any easements or road rights on your property. I stared at the paper like it was a betrayal etched in ink. So, for 15 years, they've been using my land illegally? She shrugged apologetically. It seems that way. I felt a mix of disbelief and rage bubbling up. All this time. Elaine's been playing queen, and the developer cut corners to save a buck. But you have the evidence now, she said softly. You can make them stop. I folded the papers carefully, the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders like a boulder. This wasn't just about a sign anymore, it was about fighting for what was rightfully mine. I paced the small office. I need to make sure this sticks. No more assumptions, no more fake documents. Back home, I spread the surveys across the kitchen table. The road wasn't just a line on paper, it was the key to everything. Water mains, power lines, everything ran through my property. This goes deeper than I thought, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. They've been trespassing on my land without a clue, and Elaine's been covering it up. I picked up the phone and dialed the county clerk again. I want copies of all filings related to Willowbrook Estates. Any road access permits, easements, everything. Minutes later, the clerk confirmed. No permits. No easements. Nothing official. That confirmation lit a fire inside me. I wasn't just some rancher with a family heirloom, I was the legal owner of their lifeline, and they'd been blind to it. I leaned back and said aloud, time to show them what that really means. The fight was no longer just mine, it was about truth, justice, and standing up against the lies that had buried this community in falsehoods for too long. I clenched my fists, ready to take on whatever came next. I didn't expect to find anything after dark, but when I checked the security cameras that night, my stomach dropped. There they were, Elaine, Ron, and Patty, sneaking onto my property like thieves in the night. Look at them, I muttered, eyes narrowing at the grainy footage. Elaine was holding a flashlight, Ron carried a measuring tape, and Patty kept glancing nervously over her shoulder. I pressed play, listening closely as their voices crackled through the audio. If we can prove traffic safety issues, Elaine whispered, we can force community access. Ron chuckled. I'll get hardware supplies for the barriers. We'll make it look official. Patty's voice wavered, but what if he fights back? Elaine's reply was cold, almost ruthless. He's just one man. We're an entire community. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. They weren't just careless, they were desperate, reckless even. Treating my land like some game to win, like I was an obstacle to bulldoze. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding, but a spark of something else flickered, strategy. Okay, I said aloud. They want a fight? Let's give them one they can't ignore. I rewound the footage, watching every movement, every whispered plan. This was personal to them, not just some bureaucratic spat. Elaine's voice carried a bitterness, a need to control that went beyond rules. I pulled up a blank document and started typing notes. Gather evidence. Check legal filings. Install cameras at key points. My mind raced. If I could expose their midnight plotting, show the community the truth about their methods, it would change everything. But I knew this wasn't just about property lines or permits. It was about power, and they weren't giving up without a fight. The camera caught Elaine's glare right at the lens. If she knew she was being watched, she didn't care. That fire in her eyes told me she'd push harder, get meaner. I grabbed my phone and called a lawyer friend. Listen, I've got proof of trespassing and illegal planning. I need advice, fast. His voice was calm but serious. You're on solid ground. Keep collecting evidence. Don't confront them alone. This is bigger than just your property. I hung up and stared out the window at the dark horizon, the ranch silent under the stars. This is war, I whispered. But I'm ready. The night had changed everything. I wasn't just defending land. I was standing up to a force that thought it could steamroll me, and I wasn't about to back down. Elaine showed up early the next morning, holding a piece of paper that looked about as official as a flyer from a pizza place. Mr. Walker, she said, voice sharp, this is a county violation notice. You must remove any obstructions to community road access within 48 hours or face $500 in daily fines. I took the paper, eyes scanning it carefully. This is from the county? I asked, eyebrow raised. Elaine's smile was tight. It's on official letterhead. I folded the notice slowly. Where exactly is your county permit, Elaine? Because I called the county. There's no record of this notice. She scoffed. The HOA bylaws clearly give us authority to manage community access. I leaned in, voice low and steady. HOA bylaws don't override property law. Do you know who owns the road your community uses every day? The color drained from her face, but she forced a sneer. That's not your concern. I shook my head. It is my concern when you're trespassing and putting up fake signs. You can't just make up rules. A few neighbors gathered nearby, whispering. I caught the worried glance of a young couple across the street and the frown of an elderly man who looked like he'd seen too many battles already. Elaine's patience snapped. You're making this difficult, Walker. I'm making this legal, I shot back. If you have official paperwork, slide it under my gate. Until then, this notice is worthless. Ron stepped forward, waving some folded papers. These prove our right to community access. I took the papers, unfolding them slowly. Fake HOA meeting minutes? Forged signatures? These don't hold up in court. Patty's hands trembled. Elaine said we had to try something. Elaine's eyes blazed. I'm protecting this neighborhood. And you're breaking the law, I said flatly. What do you think the neighbors watching this are thinking? A murmur ran through the small crowd. Some faces showed doubt, others resentment. Elaine clenched her fists. You don't understand the community's needs. I understand respecting the law, I replied. Something you seem to have forgotten. The tension thickened as more people gathered, drawn by the confrontation. The street felt charged, the community watching this clash of wills unfold. Elaine's mask cracked. We'll be back with proper paperwork, she threatened. I met her gaze. I'll be waiting. And I'll be ready. As they left, I knew this was only the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and the community was paying attention now. I walked into the community center that evening carrying my folder tight against my chest. The room buzzed with whispered accusations and nervous glances. Elaine was already there, perched at the front like a general rallying her troops. She spotted me and sneered. Glad you could join us, Mr. Walker. We're here to discuss the threat you're posing to our neighborhood. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement. I cleared my throat and stepped forward. I'm here to share facts, not threats. I laid out the documents, the original surveys, county records, the lack of permits. This road your community uses? It crosses my property legally. The developer never filed the necessary documents. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Elaine shot daggers at me. That's not true. You're trying to scare people into giving up access. A younger woman near the front raised her hand hesitantly. Wait, so we've been using private land all these years without permission? I nodded. Exactly. The room shifted. Some faces showed shock, others anger. An older man growled, that's a damn lie. I've paid HOA fees for years to maintain this road. Ron tried to interject, waving fake receipts, but Eleanor Hayes, a retired teacher known for her calm authority, stood up. Elaine, we need to be honest. These documents speak for themselves. Elaine's glare softened for a moment, but her pride kept her silent. A young couple whispered behind me, their eyes filled with doubt. I don't know what to believe anymore, the woman said quietly. I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want what's right. The community was fractured, torn between loyalty and truth. Eleanor addressed the crowd. Maybe it's time to reconsider how we've been led. A few neighbors nodded, whispers growing louder. Elaine's hold was slipping. Her stories were unraveling before a room full of her neighbors. I felt a flicker of hope. This was the turning point, where fear gave way to questions, and questions paved the way for justice. As the meeting ended, eyes met mine with a new understanding. The fight wasn't just mine anymore. That night, I was jolted awake by a call from Eleanor. Cole, you need to see this. Groggy, I grabbed my laptop as she sent me a video, Elaine and Ron sneaking onto my property, bolt cutters in hand, trying to cut through the barrier I'd installed. I watched, heart pounding. Elaine's face was twisted in determination, Ron looking nervous but following orders. This is it, I whispered. Proof. The next morning, I contacted Jennifer Walsh at Channel 7. Jennifer, I've got footage of illegal trespassing and attempted sabotage. She was in within hours, cameras rolling as we set up an interview at the barrier. As Jennifer asked questions, neighbors gathered, whispers turning into conversations. Some looked hopeful, others wary. Elaine's desperate stunt had backfired spectacularly, turning her from queen of the HOA to the villain in everyone's eyes. Jennifer's report aired that evening, the headline, Ranch Owner Catches HOA President Sabotaging Barrier, Legal Battle Intensifies. I sat on my porch later, watching families drive by, some shaking their heads, others offering nods of support. It wasn't easy. I saw the strain on neighbors caught between loyalty and truth. Parents worried about blocked commutes, kids missing school. But I also felt a quiet pride. Standing up wasn't just about property rights anymore. It was about justice. Eleanor stopped by the next day, a steady presence amid chaos. "You're doing what's right," she said simply. Her support reminded me I wasn't alone. Yet, the victory felt bittersweet. The fight had cost the community peace, friendships, and trust. Still, I knew this was necessary. Truth had to come first. As the news spread, I prepared for whatever came next. Because this wasn't just my land anymore, it was a symbol of standing up, no matter the cost. Elaine was a different woman by the time she faced the cameras live on Channel 7. I watched from my porch, heart pounding as the broadcast started. Tears streamed down her face, her voice breaking as she babbled about how unfair everything was. "I just wanted respect. After my divorce, this community was all I had," she cried. Her usual arrogance shattered, replaced by raw vulnerability. I felt a strange mix of shock and pity. Here was the woman who'd tried to bulldoze me, now exposed and broken in front of the whole county. Jennifer Walsh, the reporter, pressed for facts. "Do you have documentation proving road access rights?" Elaine stammered, "We didn't need documentation, we've been using that road for years." That admission was the nail in the coffin. Behind the scenes, legal citations were piling up: trespassing, destruction of property, impersonation, filing false documents. The HOA board crumbled. Ron resigned quietly, Patty followed soon after, unable to face the mounting evidence. Then Eleanor Hayes stepped up. Calm, steady Eleanor took charge, promising transparency and order. I met with her the next day. "We're going to fix this, Cole. Together." Her words gave me hope. After the chaos, maybe the community could heal. But I couldn't ignore the cost. Elaine's breakdown was painful, a reminder of how personal this battle had become. I whispered to myself, justice isn't easy. Sometimes it breaks people. Yet, with the old leadership gone and new voices rising, the fight was shifting from conflict to rebuilding. Eleanor's steady hand promised a future where truth mattered again. Watching the news, I felt satisfaction, not just for the win, but for exposing the truth. But beneath it all, sorrow lingered for the community torn apart in the process. This was just the beginning of healing. And I was ready to stand guard. Elaine wasn't at the meeting that night, but her shadow hung heavy in the room. I stood before a crowd of neighbors, my folder open, ready to lay out what needed to happen. "Here's what I propose," I began, voice steady despite the weight in my chest. First, the community admits no legal road access exists. Second, we file the proper documentation with the county, costs estimated around $2,000. Third, we upgrade the road to county standards. That'll run about $15,000. A murmur rippled through the crowd as people calculated the numbers in their heads. I also suggest establishing an annual maintenance fee, and a new HOA leadership that prevents this kind of mess from happening again. Ron cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable but nodding slightly. Patty fidgeted beside him, glancing at the floor. Both had been part of the old board but were now willing, it seemed, to help fix the damage. Eleanor Hayes stood up, her calm voice cutting through the chatter. "These terms are more than fair." Applause broke out, a wave of relief washing over the room. People were tired, ready for a solution instead of another fight. An older woman raised her hand tentatively. "Mr. Walker, I voted for Elaine as HOA president 2 years ago. I thought she'd protect us. I'm ashamed I didn't ask more questions." I met her eyes. "This isn't about blame. It's about moving forward." A younger man added, $350 each? That's cheaper than hiring a lawyer to fight this. Heads nodded, and a hopeful energy settled over the room. Elaine's name came up once, met mostly with silence or resigned sighs. Her power was gone. I looked around at neighbors stepping forward, new faces ready to take responsibility, ready to rebuild trust. "This is a fresh start," Eleanor said, smiling gently. "We can fix this, together." I felt exhaustion and relief in equal measure. This had been a long, painful road, but it was finally leading somewhere. As people filed out, shaking hands and exchanging hopeful looks, I thought about everything we'd learned, the cost of silence, the strength in unity. "This land," I whispered, "is more than property. It's a community." And for the first time in weeks, I believed we could heal. The road stretched out before me, freshly paved and marked, a solid line of truth now cutting through what used to be uncertainty. I stood at the edge of my property, watching neighbors stroll along the new path, chatting freely like the weight had finally lifted. Eleanor came up beside me, her smile quiet but full of meaning. "Looks different, doesn't it?" she said. "It does," I agreed. "Feels like we're finally doing things the right way." I thought back to the day I inherited this land, the memories, the shock of that sign, the long fight that followed. I was just a man wanting to protect what was ours. Now, I realized I'd become something more, a defender of legacy, a guardian of community. "Cole," Eleanor said softly, "you've changed this neighborhood." I looked out at families enjoying the open space, kids running where they once hesitated, neighbors sharing stories on front porches. "We all did," I said. "There's a strange pride in standing up for what's right, even when the road is rough and lonely. I'm grateful for the unexpected friendships forged in this battle." Eleanor's steady leadership, neighbors who chose truth over comfort, even the lessons learned from facing Elaine's stubbornness. "Do you think it was worth it?" Eleanor asked. I paused, feeling the weight of every sleepless night and hard conversation. "More than I ever imagined. This land is more than soil and trees. It's a story of resilience, of people coming together to protect what matters. I've grown, wiser, stronger, more understanding. The fight wasn't just about property rights, it was about respect and hope." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Willowbrook Estates, I knew the legacy my grandfather left me was safe. And the community? It's stronger than ever, built on honesty, trust, and the courage to stand tall. I smiled, feeling at peace for the first time in months. This is just the beginning.